Hey, Georgiana, Tracy Ramones here at eXp Realty. Want to take 5 minutes to go over some things that have come about since this National Association of Realtors settlement. I know you are well aware that NAR has actually entered into a settlement, and some things that are swimming out there and surrounding. There's so many myths and facts and some things that happen. So let me just set some of those straight, not all of them. First and foremost, this settlement had no impact on what realtors charge in terms of their fees. So there's a myth out there that the settlement actually forced real estate agents to reduce their fees. Nothing farther from the truth. Just like any industry, those fees will vary based on the different structure, based on the different relationship you have. Those fees are negotiable between the seller and the agent, or the buyer and the agent. So that has no bearing on it. One of the things that I actually like that came about from the settlement is, in fact, the sellers are now going to be required to actually provide a written disclosure of any known defects in the property, which means that the seller can no longer sell a property and say, hey, you know what, it is as is, and hopefully it'll work out for you. Buyers will now have the ability to have a written form from the seller prior to being obligated to purchase the property of any known defects. Now, it's not a cure-all, but it does help you when you're actually moving forward and navigating that system. And so that was something that actually came about, and there are many people, and I should say many states are already doing that anyway. So that actually helped everybody. One of the other myths is that the seller can no longer pay compensation to buyer's agents. That is not true whatsoever. It has always been the seller's choice to actually pay what party they want to pay, whether it be the listing agent or the buyer's agent. It will now be more transparent moving forward how people are paid. For instance, if you are working and you're looking as a buyer, you will now have to meet with a buyer, if you want, buyer's agent, I should say, if you want to work with a realtor. So if you want to work with a realtor and in a relationship, you will actually now have to sign an agreement, which makes sense because think of it like this. When the seller decided that they wanted to sell their house, nothing was done verbally. You met with the seller, you actually entered into an agreement, and you signed. That's just how business is all over. So now buyers will actually be required to meet with and to have a buyer's agreement. This is not even optional. Buyers will not be running around working with 10 or 15 different agents, which I feel like should have never happened anyway. When you meet with people and you consult with them, you never go into an agreement without actually knowing upfront what those fees are. When you meet with a doctor, you actually have the consultation first, and then you decide if you're going to work with them, and you actually move on to the next stage. So that's one of the things that's going to come about. Sellers will have the option, and buyers will have the option too. If they want to see a property that the seller is paying a commission on or not paying a commission on, they will have to have those conversations with their agent. Important that you actually be represented by someone who is experienced and can help you navigate through that process. Many of agents out here in New Jersey that are well versed and well experienced that can help you. The other thing that came about is there will be more transparency for all parties. There was a time when you would go to the closing table and oftentimes people would not know whether the realtor was getting paid by the seller, how much the realtor was getting paid. There will be more transparency now. If you hire someone, it's not going to be a surprise how much they're being paid. The seller will now have options. Yes, just like the buyer had options, the playing field will be level now. The seller will have to make a decision if they would like to pay a commission to a buyer's agent. If they did not want to pay a commission to a buyer's agent, it'll all be negotiable depending on what is negotiated between both parties. And here's another myth, that the buyers are now on their own. Buyers are not going to be on your own. You're actually going to be represented now, and it's going to be in a much better fashion. You're going to be able to sit down, have a dialogue, and you will instruct your agent how you want to proceed. If you want to see houses where the seller is offering compensation, you'll say yes. If you do not want to see houses where the seller is not offering compensation, you'll say no. If you say, hey, listen, I'm able to pay the compensation, it does not matter, then you'll move forward. Everything will be negotiable. Everything's negotiable. Just like when you buy a house, you have to have closing costs. It's called the cost of doing business. Everybody gets paid in a transaction. This whole settlement is not changing how home ownership is working. It's not making home ownership affordable. Home ownership is not driven by what realtors charge in fees. Home ownership is driven by the market, by supply and demand. Regardless, our fees are a small portion of the transaction. And so all of the changes that have come about, we're all going to have to get used to them. You will have to get used to working with people, and now I'll have to get used to it, which, by the way, it again, change means growth. It should have probably been something that we would have addressed it a long time ago. And so we didn't cause a lawsuit. Now that it's here, we're going to use it to the best of our knowledge and the best of our ability. I hope this video helped you. Please pass it on. Please tag me in it. Put comments down. Tell me what you think about this and share it. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and good luck with your purchase or your sale.